Hey everyone, stepping into this video, you know that this is going to be a fitness related video, and I thought that I'll just do this one because it's been a while since I did any kind of workout, exercise related content, and I wanted to go back to some of those roots. In this video, I'll actually share, as the title suggests, on how I went from a running pace of about 8 minutes per kilometer, over 8 kilometers, to somewhere in the sub 5 minutes per kilometer range, over 10 kilometers in the span of about half a year. Okay, it's not insanely fast, but for me it felt like pretty big progress, and it was a personal best for me when I eventually got that 10 kilometer at sub 5 pace. And for someone who's never really been into long distance, I was really happy about it, and I want to share how you can achieve that too, and importantly in a way that it is done gradually, no injuries, and everything is all sustainable. A little bit of background here is that for me, I've always been kind of already a regular runner. I wouldn't say that I'm struggling. I've always managed to maintain the IPPT goal standard, but I typically keep my runs to within 5 kilometers. Anything beyond 5 kilometers, I will just struggle. I know it sounds a bit hard to believe or maybe even surprising, but it is true. Yeah, so that 8 kilometer run, which I was posting 8 minutes per kilometer, that was not anything that I did for dramatic effect, right? I was actually really trying to just cover a longer distance for my runs. So I was trying to start slow to sustain the distance, but it ended up backfiring because my legs gave way somewhere into the run. I think it was about 6 km in, and I realized that I wasn't conditioned for longer runs. Really, what I was doing back then was just doing one run per week, and it was a max 5 kilometer, and it was just all very speed focused. I ended up having not much of a endurance base. And now you must be thinking, what was the big unlock? So actually, after clearing IPPT in March, I had this long window until my next IPPT cycle, and that's where I decided to go all in on running, because typically when I'm trying to maintain my body for IPPT, I still have to make sure that my body is strong enough to perform well on the static stations, the push-ups, the sit-ups. But this time round, because I had this long window to play with, I can ignore all the other static related stations and just ignore the muscle loss, forget static training, and just focus on building mileage. Actually, also around the time where this idea of participating in a marathon really floated into my head. It was something that I have already been thinking of for years, but I never really committed to. My plan was to just go for weekly long runs and gradually increase the distance to see how far my body could take me. So it started out with 8 km as you saw. Eventually I gradually increased it 9 km, 10 km, 12, 15, and I started to plateau a bit eventually when I realized I was getting to 15, 16, 17 km. Actually, it wasn't so much that the plateau happened only at that point. I realized my pace was already starting to drop quite hard after about 12 kilometers. And the most recent long runs that I tried to take it to, when I was trying to grow from 16 km to 17.5 km, it really felt like a grind. My legs were not holding up. That was the main kind of drawback for me. It wasn't so much about the stamina, but just that in terms of my physical tolerance in my legs, I couldn't sustain it. It was when I was doing a long run from Sengkang to Changi Jetty, and that was when I felt borderline injured after that run. Thankfully, nothing serious. It was just a bit of a strain, and I just had to rest for that day, and the next day I was okay. Now in this next part, I want to talk about how I actually bridged through that plateau, crossed that chasm, so to speak. Essentially, I think a few things which I'll boil down to 4 actually. So point 1 is on getting proper shoes. So for me, I actually got a pair of Saucony Hurricane shoes. Now this is the model that I got, and I really love this purchase because even though it's a bit heavier, I think it weighs in at more than 300 grams, but it provides very good heel support, which means better recovery for me, less soreness after my runs, and generally just feeling very positive after each of the runs, feeling like I can take it further rather than a cloud of doubt that lingers over me because I'm not sure whether I'll be able to actually pursue a longer distance without risking injury. Now, number 2 on what helped me was stretching, and I stretched a lot. I cannot emphasize, and this is really because I think that most people get injured because they neglect stretching, and it has also happened to me in the past before, where I ended up with things like plantar fasciitis, I'm pretty sure I'm butchering the word, but basically some sole related injuries because my body wasn't equipped yet to do the long runs properly. So now I make sure to do leg stretches after every run, at least for 10 minutes. I also incorporated additional stretching sessions, started doing yoga once every 1 to 2 weeks, and I find that it not only helps with the soreness relief, but it's also very important for building mobility, which I think will help to pay off dividends, especially as you do more strides, improve your gait, improve your running form, your posture. When you do more of these long runs, it all adds up, right? Because think of it this way, if I am performing 5% less efficient over each stride, then it compounds over the span of a longer distance. And typically when I was running distances under 5 kilometers, it wouldn't matter much, but now as I'm getting into distances closer to 20 km, it does matter a huge amount, and I feel it throughout my body. Which actually leads me to my next point, number 3. I listen a lot to my body. People who are familiar with me, the way I generally bring myself, is that I don't have any fitness tracker. I just run based on feel. I don't track my heart rate zones. I just have a general sensing of how I'm feeling that day. Do I feel energetic? Do I feel psyched in my head? Or do I feel mentally drained? And that decides how fast or slow I want to go, how far I want to take it. And really just listening a lot to your body helps me to be able to pace my long runs better instead of just running every single run all out. Always knowing that thinking long term, there's always another run, another day for you to be able to build more incremental benefits. I'm sure many of the runners who are listening up to this point understand this point, right? Wherever you are trying to go for personal best, it's not always on the day that you designate. There are some days which just feel better and things click, and it's always a spontaneous personal best. Whereas the days where we are trying to intentionally hit it, our mind might just become so psyched up that we end up using so much cognitive load that it can't bear the full performance benefits that we hope to derive out of that session. That is third point. Now, fourth point, my final one is also that I importantly didn't fully drop strength training. I know I did say that I went almost full focus on running, but another important thing here is that I still did body weight work at least once a week. So simple exercises, pull-ups, dips, I do them weighted, just focus on a few basic movements that I'm already very familiar with so that I don't unnecessarily injure myself. And it actually helped me to get stronger because I got lighter from all the running. So in the end, the weighted pull-ups, the weighted dips, I was able to do them at heavier weights, interestingly. And to me, it felt almost like a false dichotomy. At this point, kind of shattered that limiting belief I had that you can't build strength while also training for a long distance run. You can do both. My relative strength I felt has definitely improved. Anyway, those were the 4 tips. Now going on to how you can actually implement this, how I did clock a sub 50-minute 10k run, which surprised me. And the context here really was that I actually did a 17.5 kilometer long run the week before, which was the furthest I ever ran this year. And the week before that was a deload week for me. I did a light take 10 km run before I went on a short weekend KL trip. But what I think also maybe could have helped was that during the KL trip I had a full body massage, maybe helped a bit more than I expected. And interestingly, I also had 0 caffeine on the day of my PBS. I don't know how much this played a role. I didn't plan for it. It was more like just because I had a sore throat that day, and I heard that coffee is not good, caffeine is not good for sore throats because of all the acidity and so on. So there was 0 caffeine, and I felt that actually helped me to keep my energy levels more stable during the run. Because I find that with 10 km, usually it's not so much that I can't run at the pace needed to hit a 10 km in sub 50 minutes, because that's just a sub 5 minute per km pace, which if you talk about getting IPPT goal is already you need to hit like 4 minutes 30 per kilometer for your pacing if you want to get a good 2.4 kilometer timing. So it's definitely not a speed issue, it's just more of a sustaining the speed over an extended period of time, maybe a bit of a stamina thing, but importantly also a mental thing, right? Can you psych yourself out mentally to keep at that pace even when things start to become very dreary? And that's where I find the caffeine thing might have helped. Once again, the massage thing also maybe helped a bit. Also importantly, it was actually clocked when I was going on a tempo run. It wasn't intended to be a P-Best session, but about 8 kilometers in, as you can see in this pacing chart, I just decided to go for it because I realized that it was very viable. But it was still not exactly in my hands yet, which was why in this 9 km and 10 km mark, you saw I really just went full out into threshold mode. I think it was very exhilarating for me, knowing that you're so close already, just 2 km more to your P-Best, and if you don't get it, you have to try some other day, thinking about this what if. So I think that was a good trigger for me. Anyway, if you have listened up to this point, I hope that one or two things here might have helped you. Final takeaways if you are trying to improve. I'm just gonna go speed run on this because this video is getting a bit lengthy. Number one is be consistent. Once a week will not cut it. You need to do multiple runs, really up that running frequency, that mileage, and it helps. And speaking of mileage, second point is also make your long runs count, right? I think some people, they just do what I call empty miles, junk miles, because they end up going too slow on their long runs, and so it doesn't really yield much benefit. You still have to run well, run with good posture, arms and everything. In fact, sometimes on my long runs, I even feel it in my biceps. Sometimes my biceps get sore. And number three is also, as I mentioned, stretch and recover properly. 4, keep up some strength work. I think it helps more than you think. 5 is don't just chase the pace every run. Some weeks just take it easy if your mind isn't up to it. Number 6 is you can maybe try to set a goal. For me, it's a marathon, right? To stay motivated. I just signed up for Stand Chart. If any of you are also going on the December full marathon session, feel free to drop me a ping, we can meet up. And last but not least is also don't overcomplicate it, right? What I find helps, bonus point here, is sometimes I just put on a podcast and lace up my shoes and just go for a run. Yeah, don't think too much about it. And I find what keeps me motivated is also, planning out a few different running routes. Yeah, sometimes I run in Northeast, sometimes I run in the Southwest, sometimes I run in the Central, and just being able to explore all these different places helps to make the runs more interesting. Okay, and that's all I wanted to share in this video. Let me know if you want to have more videos like this, or if there's something specific you want to cover, you want to see me cover. And if not, thanks for watching. Since I've already signed up for this marathon, expect to see more running content, at least until December, because that's where most of my focus is going to be. Okay, thanks everyone, see you.